Hey, puppies and kittens, welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. And today we are
Oh,
in.
here we go. Sorry.
Yeah,
Ima.
yeah. While Tomer endures situations that could have been easily avoided,
Yes.
They
were
really could have.
saner minds, sane, just in general, minds prevailing.
The timing.
Cost us $0.00 not to do this.
Not to blow shit
but
up. Yeah,
we
but
did
then
anyways.
people might have been talking about the Trumpstein files, and apparently you can't have that.
If
Right.
Trump doesn't steal Iran's oil, how is he going to thin out the oil that he stole from Venezuela?
I mean, really, you have to get the right blend, cut them together. It's in a shaker, maybe a twist of lime. I don't know. He's put everything else in his body.
Priorities, people. So, any opening comments on this?
So we're starting with Psalm 8, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, this one
Yes.
is... The thing is, I feel like the commentaries make it more fun than it actually is. like legitimately. And I think that there is some discussion to be had with some of it. There are a couple of verses in here that I think are pretty cool, but overall, like, people will understand the meaning. But I think a bit of a deeper dive will be at the very least helpful for this. So I believe that we'll just hand it off to Aaron first to do the reading for it.
Start us
Okay.
off.
Yeah.
Will do. One moment. Okay. Where's my screen? There it is. So, I'm going to be reading from the bestest of the Bibles.
Oh, don't just okay. Aaron,
We're here for the poetry, honey. This is the
fine.
poetry.
Oh my god. Okay, fine. Hurt me a little bit more, why don't you? All right. At least take me out to dinner after you fuck me, or before. I don't know. This is terrible. This is just
Going to be reading it in the original King's English
oh my god.
Very gay, King. Very gay.
that Jesus spoke when he visited Texas. Okay. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory in the heavens through the praise of children and infants. You have established a stronghold against your enemies to silence the foe and the avenger. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them? You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your lands, put everything under their feet. All the flocks and herds and the animals of the wild, the birds of the sky, the fish of the sea, all that swims in the paths of the sea. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
Yeah, so on the face of it, we can totally understand how, like, thank you for the wonderful dance, Isaac. So on the face of it, we can totally understand this one. This is not like, outside of our reasoning, right? This one should be self-explanatory.
It's literally sucking God's dick in A minor.
Yes, it is. Although, so the I know that you didn't read the title because the King James doesn't have titles, right?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
because I guess Jesus didn't put the title in the original dictation that he recited.
Yeah, I guess not. So the title says to the leader according to the Gittith or Gittith,
Gittith.
a Psalm of David, which of course, as we noted, not actually a Psalm of David. So Prinsloo says that it is not possible to date Psalm 8 or to determine its cultic origin with any degree of certainty. Even its title is of little help because it is probably a later editorial addition the meaning of sorry, did you say it was Getith? Because I didn't look. I
Yeah,
should look.
Gittith. Yeah.
Getith. Okay.
That'll be the name of my next cat.
Is is even more obscure. It could refer to any to a musical instrument, a tune, or a cultic ceremony of some kind. So not really much help there. So Ben Witherington, the third, I should say, he points out the obvious similarities to Genesis 1 in some places, and some of them are a bit more clear than others. I think obviously the clearest one would be where the people are given dominion over the works of God, and it should be where did I have it here? Right. Now he does have, he notes that the translation in verse 5 there, yet you have made them a little lower than I know yours says angels, but so the word is Elohim, and Elohim can mean angels. In fact, there is a good chance it does here, but I'll get into it. So
And it can mean gods.
in this
And God.
context, it could mean
Yeah.
some divine, definitely divine beings, right? Because that's like the more general term for it.
Little gods in this sort of
Powers.
not gods, but
Well,
itty
you
bitty
have
gods.
the Elohim, if you want to think about it in the plural, right? So like the Elohim would be like the many gods, right? But the way it's usually used in the Bible is singular as like a name for God. But it's kind of weird to use here because this psalm is directed towards God. So God's being spoken to. So he's not saying like, yet you have made them a little lower than yourself. Like he's saying you have made them a little lower than Elohim.
Yeah.
So that is something that Sarna actually points out. And for all of my issues with Sarna, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good observation. But before I get into that, so I found, and maybe Tomer has more on this. So you have in verse 1, you have set your glory above the heavens. So the word that's used there for glory is hod, but it's not kavod, which is the word that's usually translated for as glory, at least. But hod is usually understood as majesty, and Sarna uses the translation splendor. And Sarna,
in verse 6. Verse 6 it says kavod v'hodah.
it does there in 6. Yes, it does. I'm going to get to that. But in verse 1, I'm talking about how majestic is your name. That one is hod.
Here I am worshiping the goddess who rules over me.
Right, and when I say 6, I guess in the Christian Bible that's verse
5.
5.
Yes.
5, yeah.
So Sarna,
I love the bow. She's such a precious girl.
that is a cute kitty. So Sarna connects it with the
Very
Malamu
loving
of Neo-Assyrian texts, and he also observes that it's used for humans as well. The word hod, at least. So like Moses in Numbers 27:20. It's also used for people in Zechariah 6:13 and Daniel 11:21 as well. And the Malamu was, I should have sent you a picture, Peter. I should have sent you an image of this. There is an inscription of the Assyrian god Asher, who is in like this circle of fire, and he has a like a bow and arrow, right? And he's shooting it, and like that's thought to be the Malamu, like the splendor, the glory, and that is that to me has much closer parallels with kavod, and it's especially in, I forget the verses. Is it Exodus 24? No, that's something else. Okay, I forget. However, sorry. The biggest one, Ezekiel 1, has a lot of this stuff. But so I found it surprising that they're using hod here instead of kavod. And I'll get to the kavod stuff later because that's important too. And for verse 2, So Witherington says this verse is the most difficult to make sense of. So like, how can children be used? How can they be a useful defense against your enemies? And since the thing is, since the psalm is all about the power of God and how he can exalt his creation, essentially, I think this is just another way of saying that God can make even children challenge God's foes, or at least something that is comparatively weak when you compare it to God can somehow still fight God's
That's a
enemies.
very common mythic theme, though. You think of the
Yes.
tale of David and Goliath. God has empowered this little boy with a rock to take on the mighty warrior with his spear as thick as a man's arm,
Mhm.
all that jazz. It's very, it's very dramatic. That's what poetry and storytelling is for. But yeah, when I spoke, I heard Dormammu, and I just kept flashing back to that scene of Doctor Strange and Dormammu with the time loop thing. I know.
Never seen
It's different. Oh God, yeah, I can't. Yeah, this is how I know you don't even watch YouTube Shorts, because literally that's a hilarious scene, and you could literally just take it in isolation. He keeps him in a time loop hostage. Well, Dormammu keeps killing him, but he doesn't matter. He can't leave. Anyway,
It's like a death metal band.
it's very cool. It's very metal. It's a very metal way to deal with it. Anyway, Dormammu is like represented as this rippling cosmic face energy. It's very cool. But I do like to think of, the gods like that. But the image of the bow and arrow, I actually just also thought of actually it was it was the Star Trek Next Generation episode where they accidentally ran into this very primitive species, and Jean-Luc Picard ends up trying to explain to this woman, think of how your bow would look to someone who had never seen it. You stand and make a motion, and over there your enemy drops dead, or the animal you are hunting drops dead. It looks like magic. And that's the thing, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, but the first time is always a really big deal and feels very magical. Now, obviously, we have things that make bows and arrows quite quaint and cute
Mhm.
and fun things to play with your children.
Right.
But
An
we're kind of
accessory for hold on.
gods in that way to our ancestors, not, in that sense of having things that would make them think we were magical and all
Yeah.
powerful. God, that cat loves you so much.
If
It's so cute.
if Yahweh was American, he'd have a gun. So
I'm a little
the
confused at what Lilith just said. I mean, she says that the first time is a big deal, and I get that, and it always feels magical. But no,
God.
a lot of us had a different experience.
Oh, good one. I didn't even catch
Yeah.
that. That's what I get. My
Yeah,
first thoughts about this
sometimes
were actually more musical, because this is, I believe, very likely liturgical. And you see the book ending refrain, "O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth." And it's very like you can see this being used as a liturgical hymn and having a call and response effect at the beginning and end, and then the body in the middle. This is very standard boilerplate liturgy from a musical perspective.
So my unfinished sock says, "Don't pester Arn about the low-hanging fruit. Like and share the stream instead."
Thank you, my unfinished sock. So
Oh.
the verse about God's foes there. So it's definitely used in like Christian tradition too. It's used in Matthew 21, and it's also used by Paul. So Paul might have it in mind when he says in 1 Corinthians 1:27, rather God elected the foolish of the world in order that they disgrace the wise, and God elected the weak of the world in order that they disgrace the strong. But I think that it might have a little more to do with like the whole idea of the eschatological role reversal, which we will definitely see a lot more of. Like the meek will rule the earth, basically. Like all those social roles are going to change. So But Sarna, he actually believes this might be connected to a chaos comp myth. So his argument for this particular verse isn't actually that strong, I don't think, because in order to point out that yes, there was a chaos comp mythos in kind of hidden behind many of the texts that we read in the Bible, this is not one of the verses that is very clear about it. He just kind of connects those other verses to this one, but he still thinks that it lies behind there as the foes being spoken to or being spoken about.
So Shut Up Matt says, panel, if the Psalms are songs, do we know what music they were sung to? I personally have heard Psalm 23 sung to 4 different melodies.
I mean, we don't really know.
Yeah, we don't know any original tunes.
Yeah, people just kind of add their own.
Original tunes, we would have no idea. This would have been, at least in this case, I believe, would have been, in the temple and religious ceremonies, part of the structured worship. Again, I was part of that world of like structured liturgical worship, singing, performing. You have pieces that the congregation joins in on. You have pieces that are maybe slightly more performative. This definitely bookends call and response. The tune would have been something, from that era. You could have had many different tunes at different times. And even today, like you say, you heard psalms sung to maybe 4 different tunes. Someone has an echo. See if we can
I'm
fix
not
that.
hearing an echo.
Oh, maybe it's just my headphones. Anyway, with regard to that, what you end up with is different composers will take popular texts and put their own spin on it that's there, and they'll do arrangements and they'll do choral arrangements. The blessing, the Lord bless you and keep you, I've heard many different verses, there were choral arrangements, there were songs in plays. I could sing a couple of them at this moment. It's the text remains and continues to be used and reflecting the musical stylings as they progress.
So like Sweet Dreams Are Made of This by the Eurythmics versus Marilyn Manson.
Or yes, but also there was I was just listening to this the other day, like Drunken Sailor, right? That like the tune for that, the oldest recording that we have of it from like 1909 is it's still similar. You can still tell that it has like the same kind of beats, right? But like it was just the emphasis was very different in that older recording, and that's been taken by a whole bunch of groups. So
it's interesting too, because you get these viral tunes that are as old as the hills, and people will sing different rhymes to them for marching, working, anything rhythmic. And then you have these texts that are sacred, that are set by great composers, and poetry is like that. I mean, oh God, the British opera composer, he did an opera on the Manhattan Project where he used several texts by my favorite poet, John Donne. Batter my heart, thou three-personed God. And I believe there was a Death Be Not Proud. I've always resented it was for baritone. I would have loved that one. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, even in the Hebrew, like, most of the Psalms, or Tehillim as we call them, don't really have a tune. And even the ones that are sung in synagogue, like daily or on the high holidays, like the ones with a lot of hallelujahs in them, quite popular. Can't remember exactly the numbers of those ones. And capital 20 is chapter 20, or the Psalm 20 is quite popular. There aren't really good
everything
tunes
was sung to the tune of Greensleeves.
I was also thinking of Greensleeves when
you can if you want. And that's the thing, is that these texts, these immortal texts and these immortal tunes exist separately and intertwine occasionally, and it's
Yeah.
very interesting, the evolution of
Yeah, it
music in that
seems
way.
like the cantorial like tradition of like how there isn't one tune for this psalm that's goes
Mhm.
back thousands of years. It's very much like how you said, like the way it's written has a bit of musicality to it. I wanted to ask Tomer about this, if there's like
Rhythm.
if he's found like studies about like you know it almost seems that it's written to be easy to say, easy to remember, maybe not
Mhm.
a tune, and it lends
But a
itself
rhythm.
to these 6 verses that can be sung in like 6 different tunes depending on your mood and like what's popular at the time.
Like
Like if you go
a
to
sonnet or a limerick has an inherent rhythm to the text.
Mm. Yeah, the thing is that I don't really see a rhythm or a rhyme to it. It's just like it's just
The way you
it
speak it.
uses it's easy to read.
Mhm.
Like
You
the
put
way
way
it
too much
does.
effort into this, the answer to this question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Somebody
But
beat on a
actually, it
rock.
would be interesting.
Somebody beat on a rock with a regular rhythm, and that's it.
They had instruments, Arn.
And somebody else had a pair of cymbals. Smash, smash. And that's all the music sucked that bad. But we have more comments that I got to read
Yeah.
here. So let me see what. Yeah, Elira the Free, yay! So, given the fact that there are a lot of people in mental institutions claiming to be the Messiah, should we at least grant the historians that Jesus might have come back at some point?
grant the Christians. It says grant
Yeah,
the Christians, buddy.
kind of the opposite.
Guys, he was a brown Middle Eastern man. If he came back right now, a lot of his followers would have him shipped off to a detention center. I don't think he's coming back.
It's
If
been a
I was
while.
Jesus, I would be scared of his followers.
Yeah.
He'd be in El
Also,
Salvador in a gulag.
Have you heard of Jerusalem syndrome?
yes, I have actually.
I haven't.
So people who visit Jerusalem for the first time, especially Christians, evangelicals, there is this syndrome that affects them, that they start thinking while they're there that they are Jesus,
Mhm.
and they'll start dressing in white and walking around and like telling people, "I'm Jesus, I've come back," and stuff like that. And
That's crazy shit.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon.
It's a
That's
form of
crazy.
it's a well-known form of religious psychosis. I mean, the branding would obviously be a little different when it was a Jewish person, if they thought they were the Messiah or whatever. But usually it's, someone who travels, there's this big emotional hype, they're going at last to this thing, and they have this huge emotional religious, and then
I
they
can't remember which
snap.
country it affects, like which nationality it affects the most.
My money's on
The
Americans.
phenomenon you're talking about is kind of exactly the opposite goes on whenever anybody visits Gotham.
I'm Batman.
Excuse me, guys. I haven't finished my commentary.
Oh, no. Peter, you're gonna have to make another graphic.
Actually, I'm working on another one, but it's not that. But I'm working on one for
Actually, that one
Lawrence.
still works, because it's not actually Tomer in the picture, is it?
No, it is.
No, it isn't. It's
It's an RN t-shirt.
Oh, I thought it was the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for verse 5, this one's the super interesting one. Yet you have made them a little lower than God or Elohim. So humans, obviously, for as low as they are, as this psalm presents, are just a little less important than Elohim. And I talked earlier about the Elohim. It could be God here, could be angels, could be any divine being. And initially I was like, oh, this is a singular usage. But Sarna pointed out that since the psalmist is talking directly to God throughout the whole thing, he believes it refers to angels or some other divine beings. If we take a look at, for example, Psalm 82, that's the one where God himself is talking to a council of deities, council of Elohim, and that one has also been interpreted as angels. But honestly, like these might have basis in older texts that were just later interpreted to be like they were later demoted, basically. These things that were at one point gods were demoted. So, but this is again often interpreted in the lens of Genesis 1, where the people are made in God's image. So Christians, particularly, when they think of being made a little lower than God, they're taking it, and this is Christians especially. I think some Jewish commentaries probably have it too, but they take this as meaning that they're an image of God, and it's not totally uncommon in the ancient world, since kings were sometimes said to be an image of God on earth, especially in Egypt. In Hebrews 2, this is interpreted a little bit differently. So they quote the text of Psalm 8, but instead of saying a little lower than God, they say that they were made a little lower for a little while. So they change it up there in Hebrews 2. And Isaac, you hit on this before, how the people are crowned with glory, kavod, and honor, hadar. So it's meant to imitate the earlier enthronement scene in verse at the end of verse 1 there, like you have set your glory above the heavens. So now the people are also crowned with that glory. So they're given attributes that are traditionally associated with God and divinity, that being kavod and hadar. So, but as I mentioned this earlier, I have to mention again, the kavod is Yahweh's presence or his glory, and the verse that I had in mind before was in Exodus 40:34-38, where the kavod of Yahweh enters into the tabernacle through the cloud. Fire was in the cloud at night, and that imagery to me relates far more closely to the Malamu in Assyrian texts. But those are my my commentary points.
I would very much like to hear if Tomer has found any information about the text and music. Tomer, are you okay?
I don't know. It's just been a rough period for me, so
Yeah.
I apologize. No, not just the war. It's just in general, like
Life doesn't stop being difficult just because everything else blows up, which would be nice if it did. It would be considerate, but it doesn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I generally like as I said earlier, like for the commentary, I'm only I only do sparse commentaries or overview commentaries on most of the psalms, but for psalms that are more important, at least through 1 through 9 or 1 through 10 or 11 through 20, I'm only going to pick one commentary and do more extensive things on it. So I didn't really do a lot of things about music stuff regarding Psalms 8, though there is a commentary about the history of the interpretation of Psalms by it's in Blackwell Bible Commentaries. I forgot who wrote it though. What's the name? Susan Gillingham, and she notes that let's see. I saw something regarding music about Psalms 8. But she does have a lot to say about Psalms 8. I will give her that.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, I'll take the part then of the Christian commentator. Psalm 8 sounds like cellmate, which portends Jesus being with you whenever you're troubled.
Oh, you could have. That was close. You could have done like a Paul reference or something, because he was in prison a lot.
He was. It was his favorite pastime, getting arrested and occasionally stoned, but only occasionally, for very special occasions. I am out of coffee.
Okay.
I will be right back.
So I'll just say what I have to say. So most commentators classify Psalms 8 as a hymn, specifically a hymn of praise or a psalm of creation. Kraus writes that there is a very uneven and agitated picture of the form of Psalms 8. Verses 2 and 9 could be given a meter of 2 plus 2 plus 2, Verse 3 could be a double 4-unit meter. Verses 4 through 7 have double, triple meters, and verse 8 has a 4 plus 3 scheme. He writes that the metrical variations may be attributed to the antiphonal singing that prevails in the song. Craigie notes that there are certain affinities between the psalm and Genesis 1, with respect both to creation in general and the place of mankind within creation, but writes that these similarities do not permit either precise dating or even a firm judgment as to historical sequence. He also notes that while there are similarities between the psalm and Job, the parallel does not contribute to dating or sequence. He notes that the theme of creation has given rise to a popular view that the psalm must be post-exilic, on the assumption that creation thought developed most fully in Israel during and after the exile. He writes, however, that such an assumption is unwarranted, given the commonality of creation thought throughout the ancient Near East and the centrality of creation in Israelite thought from a very early period. And about the title on the Gittith, the meaning of Gittith is unclear. Septuagint, Symmachus, and Vulgate render over the wine vats, reading gat as winepress. Kraus writes that it is possible that this is a reference to a song of the winepress, and Terrian writes that this may suggest, quote, a gleeful vintage song in the early autumn season with the rejoicing of the New Year festival, end quote. Targum reads, upon the lute that he brought from Gath, deriving Gatit from the Philistine city of Gath. Likewise, Rashi writes that Githit was a musical instrument that came from Gath, where craftsmen were found to make it. He notes that Chazal, in Genesis Rabbah 16:4, said that Gittith refers to Edom, that is destined to be trodden like a winepress, but he writes that the contents of the psalm do not indicate it. Ibn Ezra wrote that David handed over this psalm to the family of Obed-Edom the Gittite, seen in 2 Samuel 6:10, or that this psalm is to be performed to the tune of a poem that opened with the word Hagittit. Likewise, Craigie writes that the word might designate a kind of musical instrument, the Gittite lyre, or a musical tune or setting, or a festival or ceremony of some kind, also halot. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And who's going to read the next psalm?
I suppose I can do that. Let's see, Psalm 9.
I think I lost sound.
This is one of those. Psalm 9 is in Hebrew is an acrostic, but like it's messed up. It's missing a couple letters at the end, and then it's got like
it's. I think also like Psalms 9 and 10 are considered to be like the same psalms.
Yeah.
Because
So
it is
like the
because
Septuagint.
Psalms 10 continues the acrostic and
right, but it's not like the acrostic is like completed in verse.
Yeah, it's not complete.
I mean,
there is. Yeah, I mean there is not Dalid, if I remember correctly.
No Dalid.
Hold on. So
confusing.
And then between.
While you guys look at that, I think we should explain what an acrostic is. An acrostic is when, like in English, let's say I had a song that I wrote with like the first line being starting with the letter A, second line with the letter B, third with the letter C, and so on until you get through the whole alphabet. That's an acrostic. So, so Psalms 9 and 10 should be read together because together they form that acrostic. And the Septuagint even places them as one psalm.
Is it different? Is it possibly that what I'm seeing as Psalm 9, you're seeing as two separate psalms?
No, no, it's two separate psalms, but
the Septuagint placed them together.
The Septuagint placed them together, and they are probably the same psalm.
Right.
The commentaries also place them together as a single psalm. Because they are a single psalm.
Yeah, but they show the separation.
I guess I kind of see where the acrostic is kind of. But it's still like, it's not like one line per letter. It's some letters in multiple lines.
Yeah. So Craigie notes that, the psalm, this acrostic. There are several acrostics in psalms. Here, however, it's incomplete. It is missing Dalid. He restores Nun, Samech, and Tzadik, and Ayin and Pei are reversed. So,
interesting.
So it's a very it's weird. It's a very weird one.
Yeah, but it's mostly an acrostic. So
It is an acrostic, but it's very
I wonder if
confusing.
we could like reconstruct like if there was an original that was a proper
Right.
acrostic that was like edited over time,
maybe
like to
it's
make
hard to
it
tell with
less.
these.
Yeah.
You would hope the acrostic element would have preserved the text better, but
Mhm.
the amount of corruption in the text we've discussed so far.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If this is something that's so obviously different from like the intention, let's say, of the original, then what can you say about the others that don't even have an acrostic to show you how much it's been changed?
Oh,
Yeah.
and I should note this. And one of the other reasons that this is that they're viewed together is that Psalm 10 doesn't have a title.
Ah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but either way, before I get into the reading, Prinsloo notes that neither the date nor authorship of the two psalms can be determined with any measure of certainty, which is pretty usual for
Standard.
for the psalms.
Standard boilerplate.
But I will begin the reading here. To the leader, according to Laban, a psalm of David. I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart. I will tell of all your wonderful deeds. I will be glad and exult in you. I will sing praise to your name, O Most High. When my enemies turned back, they stumbled and perished before you, for you have maintained my just cause. You have sat on the throne giving righteous judgment. You have rebuked the nations. You have destroyed the wicked. You have blotted out their name forever and ever. Their enemies have vanished in everlasting ruins. Their cities you have rooted out. The very memory of them has perished. But the Lord sits enthroned forever. He has established his throne for judgment. He judges the world with righteousness. He judges the people with equity. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. And those who know your name put their trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who you seek. Sing praises to the Lord who dwells in Zion. Declare his deeds among the people. For he who avenges blood is mindful of them. He does not forget the cry of the afflicted. Be gracious to me, O Lord. See what I suffer from those who hate me. You are the one who lifts me up from the gates of death, so that I may recount all your praises, and in the gates of daughter Zion rejoice in your deliverance. The nations have sunk in the pit that they have made, in the net that they hid. In the net that they hid has their own foot been caught. The Lord has made himself known. He has executed judgment. The wicked are snared in the work of their own hands. Higgaion Selah. The wicked shall depart to Sheol, all the nations that forget God. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, nor the hope of the poor perish forever. Rise up, O Lord. Do not let mortals prevail. Let the nations be judged before you. Put them in fear, O Lord. Let the nations know that they are only human. Selah. So I do have a few things to note
Do you
on
want to
this.
continue? Should we, however, continue with Psalms 10 because this is basically the same psalm?
Uh,
It's
I suppose we
long
could.
enough, no?
I mean, in the text, it's divided, at least in the text that most of us
Yeah, but
have.
I think that all of our texts
Yeah.
have them separated, but it's essentially the same psalm.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be part of the same one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I could continue then.
Yes.
Then we'll hit on both of them together. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
can do that.
yeah.
So yeah, that was Psalm 9. So we're gonna go on to Psalm 10. And remember, this one doesn't have a title.
Yes.
Why, O Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? In arrogance, the wicked persecute the poor. Let them be caught in the schemes they have devised. For the wicked boast of the desires of their heart. Those greedy for gain curse and renounce the Lord. In the pride of their countenance, the wicked say, God will not seek it out. All their thoughts are, there is no God. We'll get to that. Their ways prosper at all times. Your judgments are on high, out of their sight. As for their foes, they scoff at them. They think in their heart, we shall not be moved. Throughout all generations, we shall not meet adversity. Their mouths are filled with cursing and deceit and
Oh my
oppression.
God.
Under their tongues are mischief and iniquity. They sit in ambush in the villages. In hiding places, they murder the innocent. Their eyes stealthily watch for the helpless. They lurk in secret like a lion in its den. They lurk that they may seize the poor. They seize the poor and drag them off in their net. They stoop, they crouch, and the helpless fall by their might. They think in their heart, God has forgotten. He has hidden his face. He will never see it. Rise up, O Lord, O God, lift up your hand. Do not forget the oppressed. Why do the wicked renounce God and say in their hearts, you will not call us to account? But you do see. Indeed, you note trouble and grief, that you may take it in your hands. The helpless commit themselves to you. You have been the helper of the orphan. Break the arm of the wicked and the evildoers. Seek out their wickedness until you find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The nations shall perish from his land. O Lord, you will hear the desire of the meek. You will strengthen their heart. You will incline your ear to do justice for the orphan and the oppressed, so that those from earth may strike terror no more. So, I guess I'll just hop into what I have. I don't have that much on most of it, but I do think that
I can certainly see why they made the division where they did.
Well, sure, yes, but the thing is, they have a lot of the same themes. They make a lot of the same rhetorical points. So that's another reason why these two are often viewed together.
Just positive, negative.
But it does, yes, exactly. It's the contrast between the righteous and the wicked between these two psalms. So starting with Psalm 9, at least in verse 4, you have sat on the throne giving righteous judgment. Obviously calling back to the enthroned motif, and we're going to see that again in verses 7 through 8, where God's enthroned and he acts as a judge. In verse 5, the destruction of the wicked and their name being blotted out. Of course, we can cross-reference that with the blotting out from the book of life. They're not going to see the new heaven and the new earth, and their memory is going to be erased, is the essential idea. And we talked about the blotting out of the book of life in the Torah when we were reading that. In verse 11, this is something I noted last week, but again, we see that God's dwelling is in Zion, the place where he actually lives and like dictates stuff from.
The place where he lays his feet.
Yeah. And maybe you guys are gonna have more on this, but the I didn't check the Hebrew for this. I should have. In verse 12, the Avenger of Blood, is that the same that's used in the Torah laws? Is it the same word that's used there?
No,
Where
Doresh
exactly?
Damim is
Verse 12
or 13 in
or
Hebrew.
13, whatever.
I'm
not sure if it's the same one. I should have checked it. I
think that's why it's taken out. But that sounds more like the pursuer of blood.
Right, yeah, the one
Or
who goes
he
after you.
pursues, yeah, for he pursues blood or avenges blood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It literally means searches. Yeah. And I think in the other bit, it's what is in the word that they use for the avenger of blood?
So you're talking about in the Torah portions?
Yeah.
I mean, they use it all throughout the law, a couple places.
So Craigie writes that the expression Avenger of Blood indicates that God, who was the giver of all life, also acted as judge of those who took or attempted to take human life. Compare Genesis 4:10 and 9:5. Thus, God would act as avenger against those who sought the psalmist's life. The word translated avenger is literally seeker. God does not forsake those who seek him in verse 11, but seeks out those who bring about affliction.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, very
in
much
the Torah,
like Cain
it's a
and Abel.
Goel Adam, which is more of a like revealer of the blood.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
in Genesis, when Cain kills Abel and God says, "Your brother's blood cries to me from the earth." I mean, it's very, obviously very poetic and dramatic imagery,
Mm.
but there was this sense of, blood, innocent blood, blood unjustly spilled demands vengeance, and that the role in the Torah of the Avenger of Blood was a, kind of a nod to tribal justice without allowing things to escalate into endless Hatfield and
Yeah.
McCoy feuds where one close member of the family had the right to kill the offender, just the offender, nobody else. We're not doing a back and forth forever, but just they had the right to avenge their own kin.
Yeah.
Wait, did I say? Yeah, I didn't. I said revealer. I meant redeemer. Yeah.
Redeemer. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Like
verse 13 there. So God is lifting the psalmist from the gates of death. So yeah, the gates of death, just like the gates of darkness and the gates of Sheol, they mean near death. So he's saved in order that he can keep singing God's praises. And we can check the same motif in Jonah, for example, where like Jonah didn't die, he just like almost died. He was at the gates. Um, so let's see what else I have here. In verses 15 through 16, we see the usual motif of the acts of the wicked coming back to bite them in the ass that we saw in Psalm 7:15. They're snared in their own works, they sink in their own pit, and their foot is caught in their own net. Verse 17, the wicked shall depart to Sheol, all the nations that forget God. So the Reshaim are equated with the nations that forget Elohim, which, considering what we get to in this in Psalm 10, we're going to have a bit of an expansion on that. So for Psalm 10, the wicked, in verse 2, what do? They persecute the poor. And it's to be taken with 9:18, where the needy shall not always be forgotten, nor the hope of the poor perish forever. So it's clear that one of the foundational tenets of the faith is to help the needy. Not helping them, or even worse, persecuting them, is seen as straying from God. In verse 4, this one's interesting. In the pride of their continents, the wicked say, God will not seek it out. All their thoughts are, there is no God. And the wicked have been, throughout this entire thing, portrayed as being very materialistic and greedy. So they believe that God's not watching, or that he doesn't care. God is not in their consideration as they go about their lives. So considering they're like, oh, God's not going to seek it out, God's not watching. Even later on in verse 11, they think in their heart God has forgotten, he has hidden his face, all this stuff. That those are not things that like an actual atheist would say. In fact, every commentary I've read from this, all of them are like, they're not actually atheists, they're practical atheists, which means they go throughout their lives not considering God. But it's not like they actively believe there is no God. They just think God doesn't give a fuck. That he's like less than useless. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Gonna get more into that once we get to Psalm 14. Where was I? Right, that was verse 4. So verses 5 through 6, the wicked are prosperous and very arrogant because of that, believing that they won't be judged. To my point before. Verses 7 through 11. I mentioned it a little bit here, but it's to be paralleled with Proverbs 1:8 through 19, where the wicked, or the sinners, who are greedy and bloodthirsty, lie in wait to ambush the innocent and take all their belongings. So it's a very similar kind of motif that we see a lot in wisdom literature, how your own actions are going to come back to bite you in the ass. Right. So in verse 13, yeah. So this is also something that the wicked say in their hearts. So keep Psalm 14 in mind for this. The wicked say in their hearts that God will not call us to account. Again, like he's not watching, he's not listening, he's not going to judge anybody. And again, we see at the end here that there's a hope for an eschatological role reversal. So while the wicked are currently the oppressors, the orphans and the oppressed, or the righteous, will soon be set over the wicked when God brings them to justice, no matter how much they deny it. So those are my comments for this one.
That's it's interesting too, because people try and associate this with atheists. I think, especially given recent illumination, it's pretty clear that this is referring largely to billionaires, or whatever the equivalent of obscenely wealthy assholes is today. Because, you have atheists like Aaron, who spends the first part of the show cuddling with his adoring cat, who clearly loves him so much. And, all of us have had that at some point. And Lawrence's cats, they're just like, oh, I have to love. And it's like, yeah, I think God is less than useless. And that makes me help people. So, yeah, the wicked are not the unbelieving. They're just assholes.
So, speaking of helping people, Illyra the Free sent 50 RN Raw gift memberships.
We
She's
love
like-
you, Illyra.
Yeah.
She's our patron goddess.
So then, what is his name? Oh, it's Dr. Kip Davis, whoever that is, says, when you all get around to doing Psalm 22, let me know. There is important information from the Dead Sea Scrolls about this text that almost everyone gets wrong. So make note of that. We have to extend an invitation to Dr. Kip Davis to be on the show only for that episode and never for any other.
So I have to get him off the mailing list that we have currently on. Just
standing invitation all the time.
It looks like there's a comment for Lawrence.
Yes.
Hola, mi amigo. What?
I said that looks like there's a comment just for you.
Oh, there's a Greek one.
I'm not seeing it on my screen.
No, it's in the regular.
But if some of you,
is it a quote?
I mean, yeah. So Sophia's wisdom. I'd have to look up a couple of these things. I ask about the. Okay, it'll take a minute for me to decipher that. Oh, see Hoplos in there. Okay,
It's probably a quote from.
it's probably a quote from something. Yeah.
James.
Okay, so are we moving on to the next one already, or have we?
I
not
have
heard
no,
from
I have the commentary on it.
Okay.
Psalms 9 and 10. So, commentators generally note that Psalms 9 and 10 originally were one unified poem, especially given the alphabetical sequence of the acrostic pattern. Septuagint combining both Psalms into a single text, Psalms 9 closing with the mark Selah, etc. Psalms 9 and 10 are taken as an acrostic poem, with every second line of the Masoretic text beginning with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Gerstenberger writes that acrostic poems can be used in rituals, especially if they are the handiwork of skilled literary singers or clergymen. He adds that the collective outlook, both in regard to the supplicant's congregation and to the opponents, reflects only the community structure of that time. He writes that while there are issues caused by frequent references to goyim, heathen or peoples, and Yahweh's judgment over them, neither the emendation of the word to geim, haughty people, as suggested by Becker, nor royal cultic interpretation is a plausible solution. He writes that we should understand peoples as oppressive sovereigns of Jewish communities in the post-exilic era. If this interpretation is correct, he writes, then the prayer very appropriately identifies internal and external tyrants. Kraus writes that Psalms 9 and 10 originated from an individual thanksgiving song, celebrating deliverance from enemies. Over time, however, this personal thanksgiving developed into a didactic proclamation addressed to an audience. He writes that the act of telling God's deeds expanded beyond personal experience and incorporated broader theological themes. Kraus notes that some scholars suggested that the poem is very late, even Hellenistic, according to Dom, Berthold, and Schmidt. but writes that its acrostic structure was especially popular in the 6th century BCE, which suggests a post-exilic context. And Craigie comments, quote, "The date and authorship of the two psalms cannot be determined with certainty. The view of the older commentaries that the psalms were Davidic is not without merit, though it cannot be established. The substance of the psalm lends itself to a royal interpretation, at least in the initial stage of their history. The exclusive use of zo as a relative pronoun might be taken as a further indication of antiquity. See also its use in Exodus 15:16, an ancient Hebrew victory song. The use of the acrostic pattern need not imply a late date, as has sometimes been argued, though neither does it indicate an early date. Probably all that can be claimed with reasonable confidence is that the two psalms come from the time of the monarchy, perhaps as early as the United Monarchy, and that they continue to be used in Israel's worship in the post-exilic period and beyond." Now, on the title, which is verse 1, to the tune of the death of the son, the Masoretic text has Almut Laben. If read literally, the phrase reads, "on the death of the son," a reading attested by Symmachus and Vulgate. Septuagint reads, "concerning the secrets of a son," and Targum, "concerning the death of the man who went out, a general from among the armies." The word ben in Aramaic is read as Ish Habanim, the man in between, or the champion, a term which also describes Goliath in 1 Samuel 17:4. Thus, several traditionals like Kimchi and Hameiri took the psalm to be about Goliath. Rashi wrote that the psalm is for the future, quote, "When the childhood of and the youth of Israel will be brightened, their righteousness will be revealed, and their salvation will draw near, that Esau and his seed will be erased," end quote. He takes almot to mean childhood and laben to mean to whiten. Most modern commentators take mot laben to be a tune according to which this psalm was to be sung. Terrien notes Artone's opinion that the term may refer to an instrument of Egyptian music.
Yeah, I mean, the
Egyptian
issue
was
with
a
it being
choice.
the issue with it being literally translated as like for the death of the son is it's not written the way that you normally write that. You normally would just say on the death of the son. You wouldn't say on the death of two, how it's kind of done, which is why there's all these different interpretations.
Yeah, the grammar is a little odd. Also,
Yeah, you could add like on the death of someone called Laban. Like that's an example.
can we please hope for a future that isn't built on just getting rid of all the descendants of someone you didn't like? Oh, Jesus. Anyway, but honestly, it's looking at from the death of the son, not long looking at the joyful first half. In 9, I will praise you, O Lord, with all my heart, tell
Right.
of all your wonders. I'm like, that is not my response to the death of a son.
Right. That's also unless it's referring to like one interpretation is like, oh, maybe it's referring to his son Absalom, but then why does it say on the death to the son?
It's
written weird.
It's-
So like, yeah, maybe it's referring to Naval, maybe it's referring to there's all these different
Oh,
yeah, I mean JPS is literally just writes Al-Muflab English translation, and says this unclear.
Durango.
Mhm.
I see the chat has been asking earlier, especially about Durango. Oh,
He's kind of a grouch. He's a bit of a poopy head.
oh. Maybe he
He
needs to
hisses all the
snuggle up
time.
somewhere warm.
Ever since I got him, he was hissing in the bag when I first took him out. He's just always got this attitude. He's always in a bad mood, but he's beautiful, I think, and he feels groovy. But he's just a poopy head. He's a grouch. I should have named him Oscar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we could get him a little garbage can and a green fuzzy hat.
And finally, about 16, which is 17, higayon. The meaning of higayon is unclear, appearing also in 1915 and 92:4 and Lamentations 3:62. Septuagint reads, Ode of an Interlude, Targum, the righteous rejoice, reading Ranan, which means rejoice. Both traditionals took higayon as a constant meditation, i.e., quote, let us meditate over this forever, end quote, according to Rashi. And, quote, this deliverance is the subject of our meditation, higayon, and thanksgiving, end quote, according to Kimchi, following the meaning of hege as meditation at Psalms 19:15 and Lamentations 3:62. Kraus takes higayon from hege, which denotes the growling of the lion, seen in Isaiah 31:4, the cooing of the dove in Isaiah 38:4, the groaning of a human being in Isaiah 16:7, and the muttering of one who reads to oneself in Psalms 1:2. He writes that the higayon in this psalm, which immediately precedes Selah, could call either for a pause for reflection or for an instrumental interlude. Craigie notes that Movinkel has suggested musical flourish, but if the word is derived from hege, it might imply soft singing or accompaniment, and could indicate that the concluding verses of the psalm should be rendered quietly, as befits the solemn theme.
I'd hope so.
Yeah, I mean, the traditionals translate Selah as meaning forever, so higayon Selah is, meditate forever. So let's kind of reflect upon this deeply or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll meditate on something until I fall asleep. That's it. That's all you get.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, so who's got the next chapter here? Psalm
I
11.
believe if we're following rotation,
It's you.
I do Psalm 11 for the director of music of David. Well, much like a Fred, but anyway. In the Lord I take refuge. How then can you say to me, flee like a bird to your mountain? For look, the wicked bend their bows, and they set their arrows against the string to shoot from the shadows at the upright in heart. When the foundations are being destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord is on his heavenly throne. He observes the sons of men. His eyes examine them.
Now I'm going to have that image stuck in my head for the rest of the day. The Lord is in his holy temple.
Ah,
You remember that movie?
Yeah.
The little girls just, they're here.
Oh dear. Oh dear. That's a horror movie. Opening. Standard boilerplate, terrifying little girl. Okay. Well, he observes the sons of men and examines them. The Lord examines the righteous, but the wicked and those who love violence his soul hates. He doesn't do anything about it. He's just very mad at them. On the wicked he will rain fiery coals and burning sulfur. A scorching wind will be their lot. For the Lord is righteous. He loves justice. Upright men will see his face. I can't help but notice that his justice appears to be somewhat delayed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think this one is interesting just for some of the translation difficulties, and maybe Tomer and Isaac can help me out here. And I'll address it as I go on. So this one's not exactly a prayer, since it doesn't address God directly. But in verse 2, yeah, the wicked are bending their bows, ironically, just like God, and the psalmist is worried about his homeland. In verse 3, this verse is translated in multiple ways depending on how one takes righteous in this verse. So the NRSV UE says, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? Foundations referring to the foundations of the buildings and likely comes from the Phoenician shatet, which meant pillars. While the buildings are being destroyed, what can the righteous do to stop it? The
I think I
righteous
know
would
the
have
answer to this. When the foundations are being destroyed, what can the righteous do? I think the answer is ride out with me. Ride out and meet them.
I have absolutely no idea what you're referencing. So, but the righteous would
illustrate.
have the usual meaning of the belief
Let
that
this
you're
be the hour that we draw swords together.
Thank you. I knew somebody would
Theoden.
do it.
Where's my sword?
So yeah, you're talking about the believers here for the righteous. However, Dahoud translates this as when foundations are being torn down, what is the just one doing? And this would seem to play into the criticism of the wicked, that God is too far away to pay attention or do anything. Righteous, Sadiq, would be a reference to God or the just one. So it's used like substantively. He says, quote, the sense of this much canvas verse becomes pellucid once Sadiq is recognized as a divine appelative, which recurs in Psalm 31:19 and 75:11. A further argument can be made for this interpretation if we consider the fact that verse 7 says that Yahweh is righteous, Sadiq. Or like we could understand verse 7 as like the Lord is the just one. But then Craigie says that the foundations are indeed being torn down. What has the righteous done? And so Craigie seems he sees this as the psalmist saying that they have done nothing to deserve such a treatment. So there are multiple ways to translate that verse, and maybe we'll get back to it. There's another translation difficulty that I'll get to.
Side note, if the foundations need to be torn down or prevented from being set up, if a massive ARA farm or concentration camp is being built near you, sugar in the concrete will prevent it from setting.
Oh, good to know.
Maybe some foundations just shouldn't exist at all.
Yeah, true. So for verse 4, this verse seems to be a direct response to the claim of the wicked that God doesn't care. So while being on his throne in heaven, he is actively watching and judging. And just for posterity's sake, his eyes behold. All right.
Behold!
Damn right. So for verse 5, some more translation issues. So while the NRSV UE says that Yahweh tests both the righteous and the wicked, Dahoud translates this as Yahweh is the just one who will indeed assay the wicked. An argument against this interpretation would be that we see the results of the judgment for both the righteous and the wicked in the following verses. So the wicked will be rained upon by coals of fire and sulfur, while the righteous will get to see the face of God. However, Dahoud argues that it's a breaking up of Deuteronomy 32:4, where God is called just and upright, so it splits it. Craigie translates this as the Lord tests the righteous, but the wicked and the one loving violence his soul hates. He says, quote, it is difficult to be certain of the stichometry of this verse. It would be possible to translate the Lord tests the righteous and the wicked, and his soul hates the one loving violence. The analysis in the translation above is preferred, for it seeks out more clearly the contrast between the righteous and the wicked, which is pursued further in verse 6, where you have the wicked, and in verse 7, the righteous. And then, so for translation stuff, maybe Tomer and Isaac can have some input on that. But then in verse 6 there, obviously an allusion to Sodom and Gomorrah. But that's my commentary for Psalm 11.
Yeah. The Lord's
Yeah,
For
just
translation difficulties, mostly.
Yeah, I mean, interesting things in verse 6 are like, the verse for like the word used for like raining down. It's a bit interesting because it's like he's raining down punishment, but the verb used is as far as I remember, it's more like a gentle rain, like almost like a dew. That makes sense.
He
Like,
rains dew from heaven. I mean, justice upon the evil. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, I mean, let's take the
isn't that a
evil.
thing? Isn't that a thing? Like the difference between Geshem and Meter, or however you pronounce it?
Matar?
Matar, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
God will
guess.
see justice
Is-
brought. For
Isn't
example,
Matar normally like a...
if you're an evil billionaire
It's
in the Trumpstein files, you might possibly live till 97 and be very, very wealthy and have everything you've ever wanted, and then have to go to court in a nice suit, and someone may tell you to stop answering so many questions. But your lawyer will threaten you, and that's God's justice, really. Jim Pattison. We have a couple evil billionaires in the files, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also in verse 6.
Matar.
Oh, yeah? Oh, you found it?
Matar is
Yeah.
no, it's just Matar is synonymous with Geshem, so
It's just, it doesn't have an implication of like a light rain.
no.
But that was a thing.
I
'Cause you have like the
I guess,
blessing
but
of
it's
rain. It's kind of
I guess, but it's a synonym. Yeah, no, it's a synonym. It's a synonym.
Oh, okay.
God's blessings and cursings appear to be largely indistinguishable.
Maybe it's just distinguishing between like, oh, rain, just like regular weather, but then matar is like God given, whether it's a blessing or a curse or something.
I guess, but it's
Also, the last word in that verse is like kosam, which is like
Kosam.
their cup, and it's translated as like their portion, their lot. It's interesting as well. Like, yeah, like a scorching wind is their portion, their cup, or a portion of their cup, which is an interesting way of saying it.
Okay, so Gerstenberger notes that all form critics consider Psalms 11 unique. He notes that Gunkel called it a, quote, dialogue of the poet with others apparently standing before him, end quote. He writes that since all the elements of the prayer are tinged by the dispute or contest situation, we may therefore call it a psalm of contest or a disputing prayer. Craigie labels it as a song of confidence. The psalmist, in imminent danger from violent enemies, has sought refuge in God and rises in confidence about the inimical threat and the temptation to flee. He writes that it is possible that the psalm's initial setting was in the context of the temple, as seen in verse 4, though it need not be found in the context of formal worship. Tellien writes that the psalmist perhaps meditated on the spiritual agony of young David, relentlessly pursued by King Saul, the object of irrational jealousy, as seen in 1 Samuel 23:1 through 31:13. He writes that if the hero was a royal figure, he may have been King Josiah, killed at the Battle of Megiddo in 509 BCE, or his son Jehoahaz, but in chains by Pharaoh Necho in 2 Kings 23:28 through 31. Kraus writes that a dating of the psalm is hardly possible, though it can hardly be any doubt that the formulary belongs to the realm of the temple and of the cultic act of the jurisdiction of God. Thus, a pre-exilic origin is possible, but in such a dating, quote, the perspective of the history of tradition is not to be curtailed, end quote. He further writes, quote, the situation of Psalm 11 is clearly shown in verses 1 and 4. The petitioner has found refuge from persecuting enemies in the temple area. At the sanctuary, he obviously meets those people who recommended a different way to him, namely, not the way of refuge with Yahweh, but that of flight to the hills. There can be no doubt that the psalm is to be attributed to the cultic institution of God's juridical authority. Compare Psalms 3, 4, 5, 7, and 17. The verb chassa in verse 1 is characteristic of the way of looking for protection in the asylum area of the temple. But the speaker in the psalm is devoted not to the area of protection as such, but to Yahweh alone. With him he has sheltered himself. We cannot recognize in detail which stages of the legal proceedings the seeker of protection has already passed through. The only thing that seems to be established is that he has not as yet heard the actual verdict of Yahweh. Confession and confidence are devoted to the righteous judgment and activity of the God of Israel, and hopefully already look forward to the hour of decision. That's it.
Would we then be moving to, what is it, 12?
12, yes.
Well, I would, but I'm kind of wondering still about your guys' thoughts on the translation of specifically um, verse 5. Uh, like, is God testing the righteous and the wicked, or just one of them?
I mean, the translations I have seem to imply just like JPS is the Lord seeks out the righteous man, but loathes the wicked one who
Yeah.
loves
I
injustice.
mean, yeah. I mean,
Um,
it can be if the reading here is like a noun next to noun then verb, then it's Yahweh tests the righteous, but he loathes the evil, and that who loves Hamas. I mean, it could be
yeah,
injustice, so
literally,
violence.
it's like literally, it's like God righteous, he seeks, and
I'm
the
glad you asked about that.
evil.
I've got the King James here, and it's
Mm.
muddy. So the Lord
Right.
examines the righteous, comma, but the wicked, comma, those who love violence. That doesn't even make sense as a sentence.
Well, yeah,
Is it?
Don't really know.
Is there another comma after those who love violence?
Yeah, he hates. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. After the those who love violence, comma, he hates with a passion.
Yeah.
right,
So
yeah,
sometimes it's like you can like put a comma on either side of something that is like in brackets.
yeah.
So it's saying like the evil, the ones who hate violence.
So he hates the ones who love violence, and recommends that we kill every last one of them, including their children and their pets.
It's giving behead those who say Islam is not a religion of peace. It's the same. It's the same. Do you hear yourself? Bitch.
Yeah, by the way,
Like,
the literal Hebrew of loves violence or loves injustice is ohev Hamas, and ohev
that
means
is
love,
fucking hilarious.
So
like
you,
the
you don't
lover
think
of yeah.
so because I'm not sure how I feel about Dahoud's argument
Mm.
when he says that, like, where it says in verse 7, like, the Lord is righteous. Like, he takes it as a as a substantive, like the Lord is the just one. And if we take that interpretation throughout the rest of the psalm, then he says that the Lord, the Yahweh is the just one.
I see.
Yeah, who will
I mean,
indeed.
that.
Yeah,
Go on.
yeah. He says that Yahweh is the just one who will indeed assay the wicked.
That's also
Yeah.
how Terian renders this verse. He renders the Lord is just. He scrutinizes the evildoer. In his deep self, he hates the evildoer and the love of violence.
Yeah, the
So,
only
like,
issue is that the Hebrew has like and. It's like God. Let's say
right. So
God
splits the sentence.
is
Yeah,
right. Yeah, God is righteous. Who tests or attends, but then it says and the wicked.
right. Yeah.
So there's like it doesn't seem to flow with the verb. Yeah.
Yeah, this was something that I was going over a lot because I was like, this is a fun issue because who is he testing here? Sometimes it sounds like one or both. So, like,
Well, he already tested the righteous with Job, and he was an asshole. And then with the
he can
wicked
keep
seem
doing
to
it.
be
Yeah,
fairly.
it's also interesting the actual even the verb like to test. I don't know if that's a more like later meaning. JPS has like seeks out. Steinsaltz has attends to. Um, tries, I guess, is more like tests. Is I'm not sure what translation that comes from.
No, but I get the way that they're using test there.
Yeah. I think the Lord seeking out the righteous is probably the most accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, especially
Maybe
because of that
testing.
and in the middle,
Yeah.
it makes sense to
Yeah,
separate
yeah.
it out. And just
Yeah.
because like God is called Sadiq or righteous doesn't mean that the same
Right.
chapter can't use the word to refer to
Right. Yeah.
Personally.
Exactly. So, yeah, it was just just wondering on that one.
As Black Swan said, I know Aaron will love this comment. So it's Yahweh or the highway.
Yeah, I'm done. We can move on to the next psalm.
So Isaac,
Yeah, I could do this one. We're going in the order of the pictures on the screen. So it would be Thomas'
we
turn.
could do. I mean, I wasn't going to ask Tomer, but I mean, if Tomer's up for it, we can do that.
Yeah, I think I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. So this is Psalms 12. For the leader on the Sheminith, a psalm of David. Help, O Lord, for the faithful are no more. The loyal have vanished from among men. Men speak lies to one another. Their speech is smooth. They talk with duplicity. May the Lord cut off all flattering lips, every tongue that speaks arrogance. They say, by our tongues we shall prevail. With lips such as ours, who can be our master? Because of the groans of the plundered poor and needy, I will now act, says the Lord. I will give help, he affirms to him. The words of the Lord are pure words, silver purged in an earthen crucible, refined sevenfold. You, O Lord, will keep them, guarding each from this age evermore. On every side the wicked roam, when baseness is exalted among men.
Well, that just sounds delightful.
Yeah, I don't think this one was written by like the same caliber of poet.
Yeah, no, this is someone who's angrier, and I can tell that for a few reasons. So the so we've seen this idea of the opponents flattering others with their lips, but since they are deceitful, they're really in it for their own gain. So in verse 2 there we see because at least in the NRSV the deceitful heart, or a deceitful heart, is with a heart and heart, right? In Hebrew. And this double-heartedness, to me, it's very similar to the later double-mindedness motif that we see in the Shepherd of Hermas. It's not quite the same, because in the Shepherd of Hermas, it's more like you're very iffy on you know what you believe and how you believe it, I guess. So it's very similar, but this double-heartedness is more like, oh, you have this good face that you show to the world, but or to at least to some communities, and then at other times you're using that good face to just be in it for yourself, get whatever you want. So that's the double-heartedness, but it's very similar to the double-mindedness motif that we see in later texts. That's like the
Right.
death knell for someone.
Right, because people saw the heart as being like the seat of intellect rather than the brain.
Yeah. So, and then in verse 6, purified 7 times. So just a completeness. We've seen that plenty. And there's a significant contrast here with God and the wicked. So the wicked, and I guess their vileness too, is exalted among the people, while the faithful have disappeared. And the wicked utter lies, but God's promises are pure. So they're contrasting God and the wicked there.
Looks like some people had some trouble with YouTube. With the refresh.
Oh, okay.
Well, one trick you can do is if you missed out a bit, is you go back and then watch like double speed, and then you'll catch up in no time.
My problem with Wicked is that they sing everything.
I would have thought the green paint would be really hard to get out of your clothes.
So Kip Davis says, why wouldn't take?
I wouldn't take.
Yeah, I wouldn't take. It's the way that these things bleed the words together.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take righteous as a substantive It's an adjective.
And then he
Fair
continues.
enough.
I mean, we can translate objectives this way,
Adjective.
but I wouldn't say it should be more explicit when we do.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right, substantive is like a noun, like the person who does it.
Yeah, so this happens in a lot of languages where it's like you use the adjective as like you give it a body and you say like one after it. Like if I were to say like the good and the bad, like I could give both of those bodies and say the good people and the bad people, or the good
Right.
person and the bad person. So like that's substantival usage. And you can do that with adjectives, with verbs. Happens in a ton of languages.
Right. That makes sense.
Good.
Right. Like the doer, the singer. I mean, these are all words that are, in a sense, verbs, or is that slightly different? Or at least in English they're separate, but in Hebrew they're the same.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like, yeah, in Hebrew, like trying to think of a good question. Let's say the one who asks, the questioner, is the same word as questioning. Like he is asking.
Yeah.
Hu shoel, hashoel, the questioner.
Yeah. So you can go like who questions, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like a substantive adjective.
Do you know any other languages like that, Lawrence?
Yes, Greek does that all the time.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Craigie labels Psalms 12 as a communal lament, but writes that the internal evidence is ambiguous and the psalm could be interpreted in individual terms. The psalm would have been utilized in some specific context in Israel's temple worship, though a precise context cannot be determined. He writes that verse 6, which is 5 in the Masoretic text, expressed as the words of the Lord, was addressed to the worshippers by a priest or prophet. But this cannot be certain, for the use of direct speech is a useful poetic device, and need not imply an additional participant in a cultic context. Gerstenberger notes that there is an abundant evidence of congregational use, such as the generalized help in the Masoretic text, Hoshea, compare Septuagint, help me. The oppressors act as a powerful group, using malicious words against the supplicants, who are described using the old couplet, miserable and needy, ani ve'evion, in verse 7, which is 6. He writes that the complaining, the pleading, and the certainty of being heard are couched more in congregational than in familial terms. Thus, quote, early Jewish communities have remodeled an old individual complaint to accommodate it to congregational services for the poor and oppressed, end quote. Kraus notes that J. Jeremias, based on word statistics, estimated that the psalm was composed during the late pre-exilic period at the time of Habakkuk. And Terrian comments, quote, astrology had been officially reintroduced in the kingdom of Judah by Manasseh, Josiah's grandfather, under the influence of Assyrian invaders in 2 Kings 21, 3 and 5. The reigning of celestial movements and their interpretation of individual or national destiny was radically opposed by the Yahwists, especially Jeremiah and Habakkuk in 2:4. Like the poet of Psalm 12, the great prophets discerned that astrology brought a fatal confusion between humble trust in a free deity and the human arrogance of self-assertion. That's it.
All right, then. Are we moving then to 13?
I believe we are.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not very long.
Is it Isaac or me?
It's Isaac's turn.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but just before you do, Dr. Kip Davis says we also do it in English, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Fair?
Yeah, I was apparently with verbs it's not called substantive, it's something else. And like the Hebrew thing is like, I think it's sometimes called what I'm thinking of is maybe called an agent noun or something like that, where you take a verb. And I think sometimes you have it in English as well, like a writing. You know?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Psalm 13. For the leader, a psalm of David. How long, O Lord, will you ignore me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long will I have cares on my mind, grief in my heart all day? How long will my enemy have the upper hand? Look at me, answer me, O Lord my God, restore the luster to my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Lest my enemy say, I have overcome him. My foes exult when I totter, but I trust in your faithfulness. My heart will exult in your deliverance. I will sing to the Lord, for he has been good to me. That's it. 6 verses.
Yeah, pretty sharp.
Yeah.
So this one, the I only really had one interesting note here, I would say. Uh, so in verse 1, there's just some strange stuff to me. Uh, so like obviously the psalmist is going through it. So uh, he says, "Will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" Uh, and these are very interesting ways to put it because in an earlier psalm we saw that uh like the people who are downtrodden will not be forgotten explicitly, and we also see that the face of God will be shown to the righteous in an earlier psalm as well. So these two specifically have been are very interesting to me, so you can kind of see now I don't know if that helps to date it at all, but it definitely shows a a contrast between like one has like this feeling of hope and this one is like a plea.
It is, although I wonder if its original intent was individual or communal. I mean, the old joke is that every Jewish holiday is they tried to kill us, we lived, let's eat. But there's a lot of narratives of trouble
Yesterday.
and crying out, to God and demanding that God come and save or send the Messiah or whatever. Um, and yeah, turning his countenance towards you is supposed to be a good thing, usually. A blessing, you know, look at us, remember us. God has ADHD, so he won't remember you if you're not right in front of him. But but I do wonder because some of these psalms, many of them would have been used for liturgical meanings. That narrative, there's the time of trouble and we cry out for God's help, and then the hope comes, or the Passover comes, whatever, we remember the rescue, the celebration of that.
Isn't
So
that when
again,
Mother Mary comes to me?
let it be.
Yesterday was Purim, and I have lots of snacks.
There you go. What'd I say?
Do you also have lots of alcohol?
I didn't have any.
How are
Wow.
you not
There were-
hungover?
Wow.
There was
Hold
like
on.
2 cans of a beer that I feel like
Oh,
Aaron would
I have
liked.
Guinness
It was like
at
ruby,
my refrigerator.
Not
Ruby
drinking
something.
on Purim?
like a big
Come on.
can, purple can, but it's just beer.
You do forget that Isaac is a profound blasphemer and
Right,
profound
yeah.
atheist, so he cannot drink on Purim because that will violate the essence of
The
Purim.
tenets of atheism.
Yes.
Yes, the tenets of atheism
On
It
forbid
would
on
be
to
Purim,
practice.
excommunicated by the atheist Pope, which I believe ironically might be you, Aaron. Can we get you a ridiculous pointy hat?
I have plenty of ridiculous hats.
Yeah. On Purim, you're supposed to drink until you can't tell the difference between blessed is Haman and cursed is Mordecai, or the other way around.
The other way around.
And-
Yeah. Oh, look, you can do it
Um,
sober.
So my job is to do it sober. Is to,
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy work there. Wow, what a bad Jew. Jeez.
So, are we moving to 14?
No, I have 13. I have the commentary
is,
as well.
yeah.
Okay.
So Gerstenberger calls Psalms 13 a true complaint psalm for individuals. Though some like Mowinckel, Benson, and Widengren classified Psalms 13 as a first-person royal or communal prayer, Gerstenberger notes that the reference to Oyev, enemy, in verse 3, which is 2 in the Old Testament, certainly does not suffice to make it a national lament. He writes that the poem cannot be bisected. It does not consist of an original complaint, verses 1 through 5, to which were added, after the supplicant's cure, some lines of praise in verse 6. He suggested that Psalms 13 may have been recited in cases of prolonged illness. Craigie labels it as an individual lament and writes that it is possible that the psalm in its initial context was utilized in some ceremony in the temple, though there's little internal evidence to specify a cultic context. He notes that it has been suggested by Ridderbos that the change in tone between verses 5 and 6 resulted from some kind of intervention in the context of worship, perhaps a word from the priest which inspired trust, but this cannot be uncertain. He adds that there is little in the content of the psalm to enable a firm dating of it, though its language and general sentiments are such that it may be assumed to be old, in its original form at least. He notes that there are general parallels to the psalm in Babylonian laments, and the type has a long history in Israel's worship. He concludes that the psalm may have originated early in the period of the Hebrew monarchy. And Kraus comments, quote, "What is the situation of the psalmist? Does the prayer song reveal any clues at all that may answer this question? Verse 3 has again and again become the center of attention in this matter. Obviously, the petitioner is near death. His vitality, broken down by suffering of long standing in verses 1 forward, is blighted. Thus, we can think of a person mortally ill. Still, there is really not a trace of concrete evidence that points to a sickness or of the nature of the suffering. H. Schmidt's suggestion that we might think of a person afflicted with a disease of the eyes depends on inappropriate interpretation of the plea, "Enlighten my eyes." The real distress in which the petitioner of the psalm utters his groans is the separation from God, that is, his experiencing of the wrath of God. And yet we must surely also give attention to the appearance of the enemy in verse 4, whose purpose is to ruin this weak person by means of perhaps slanderous accusation, by means of disclosure of the guilt that is presumed to be at the bottom of the sickness. Basically, however, H. Gunkel is right in emphasizing that it is not the physical pain of the petitioner that is the heart of the matter, but rather the fact that, quote, "his hope in God seems to come to grief, and that his faith does not seem to come into its own, end quote. That's it.
Okay. Are we now moving to 14?
Yes.
We can, yes. Although I suggest that we read both 14 and 15 together. I think they should be read together.
Okay. I will oblige that, but
is there a reason? Because
Yes.
from what I've read, they're not considered the same psalm.
They are not considered the same psalm, but I think that they're meant to contrast, and I will argue for that.
okay.
Okay.
Well, then, reading Psalm 14, it begins with a passage that is so earth-shattering. Why did nobody ever tell me about this passage before?
I was looking at this thinking, yeah, it is so correct that because Arn has to be the one to read.
Yeah, I have most of a paper written on this. I have to tidy it up, but yeah, this is something I want to publish on because I think there's a juxtaposition between two groups here that I think really can help us understand it, which is why I want to have them both read at once.
Well, very good, because I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That first verse is, "The fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. Their deeds are vile. There is no one who does good." I'm sure we're going to talk about that one for a good little bit. But moving on to read the rest of it. "The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand, any who seek God. All have turned away. All have become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one." And it's not that they're pure evil. It's just none of them do anything good. None who does good at all. We'll have to talk about that too. "Do all these evildoers know nothing?" I think we know more than the believers. "They devour my people as though eating bread. They never call on the Lord. But there they are, overwhelmed with dread, for God is present in the company of the righteous. You evildoers frustrate the plans of the poor, but the Lord is their refuge. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion. When the Lord restores his people, let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad. Then into 15, Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor, and casts no slur on others, who despises a vile person, but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath even when it hurts, and does not change their mind, even when they're wrong, who lends money to the poor without interest, who does not accept a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things will never be shaken.
And just so everyone's clear, the do not change their mind when they're wrong is Aaron's spin on that. That's not in the text.
It's just a product of experience and observation.
Right, of course,
Yeah.
yes. But yeah, so there are a few things here. First, for 14, like so many people quote this at us. Like it happens
Ugh.
all the fucking time. And
And it's so dumb.
right.
They
yeah.
don't even, they're always like, hey, you're missing the context, and they won't quote more than half a sentence at a time.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of stuff here. And while Christians today, because that's who we hear it from, is Christians, they take this as like, oh, it says like, oh, the fool has said in his heart there is no God, and you say there is no God, therefore you are a fool. Haha, I win. The thing is, early Christians didn't even think this is about atheists. At the time, there would have been no group of atheists that were like causing issues, because atheism was very, very uncommon back then.
The
So there,
closest thing would have been like Epicurean philosophers.
yeah, and even like the
I mean,
Epicureans aren't a
they
problem for the
nominally
psalmist.
believed in the gods. They just
But yeah. It was much harder to be an atheist back then. The thing is, people like Calvin didn't interpret it that way. I have to work this in, but like there's notes from Chrysostom, Augustine, a whole bunch of Christians. But the thing is, every single commentary I've read, like no scholar, even if they're like the most Christian scholar, they don't think this is about atheists. Nobody does. Only like laymen do.
I
Because
mean, for the commentaries that I've read, they talk about practical atheism. Basically,
exactly.
Mainly it's ignoring the activity of God rather than saying that he does not exist.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
So
JPS even translates it differently. It translates it as the benighted man thinks God does not care.
right, yeah. So even though, and I did, just to be sure, I did ask Kim about something about about the other verse where it said, there is no God, and it should be translated that way, but like that's not, like the context shows that it's not meant the same way that like we would use it.
it seems more like the previous verse where they were talking about people who do not fear God's judgment. I can get away with it. God's not looking at me right now. He's got other shit to do. Which you would hope he did have a lot of actually important things to do, but then they're using it to exploit their neighbors. And, meanwhile, everyone on the panel here is sitting here supporting their family in times of crisis, or, surrounded by their rescue kitties and other animals who show them love. And I'm like, yeah, we're real fucking wicked here. So wicked.
I mean, it does seem like in the context of the psalm, like that the first verse, this the Hebrew word naval, the fool or whatever, it could be saying like people looking around at this, the rest of the psalm says that the earth, there's no good people, everything is bad, and blah blah blah. So it's almost like this person in the first verse is saying like, is agreeing with David, let's say, whatever the author, that this is not of God. God isn't here. I don't see God around me because man's deeds are corrupt and loathsome, and no
Right.
one does good. That's one
The way
way
that I interpret it, the
looking
way
at
that
it.
I answer this when I hear it every week at least,
Mm.
is that we all understand that a fool is one who too readily accepts improbable claims from questionable sources on insufficient evidence. So it's no surprise that the Bible and the Quran both use the opposite definition from common parlance, since both of those books are trying to fool you.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah, but the thing is, they're using this this is another way to refer to the wicked.
Mhm.
And
The scoundrel, the
Just to be
benighted man.
completely clear,
Yeah.
you're saying this the Psalms 14:1 is not referring to atheists.
it's not. In fact, you and I did something on this on your channel. So like I had mentioned this before, and you were like, "Hey, do you want to come on and talk about that?" So I did.
It's I was trying to it seems awfully familiar, like I've already done a video on this, but I've forgotten the videos I've already done. Shit.
You've done a lot of videos, to be fair.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So we can, and there's a reason I wanted us to read both Psalms 14 and 15, because they have that juxtaposition of these two groups. We can learn more about who they're actually talking about. So
Are
what
we
do we
done
know?
talking about this one verse in particular?
Though we're still getting into it. So I'm gonna read off some stuff I have written down here. So what do we know about the fools? They're corrupt. Their deeds are vile. There is none that does good. They're called evildoers. They frustrate the plans of the poor. They refuse to pray, and they don't seek God. So if we take those all as I wanted to, totally forgot. I wanted to make like a chart to send Peter to show, but I forgot. So you're gonna have to follow along this way. So on the face of it, a cynical believer could still accept this chapter as talking about atheists, but we need to take a look at the rest of the book in order to figure out the opponents of the work. And I've mentioned the wicked, the Reshaim, before, and the overarching opponents in Psalms. So in my view, the fools in chapter 14 are to be contrasted with the wise of chapter 15. So wise isn't in the chapter, but it is in chapter 14. In like we have like the setup, right? So we have the fools for verse 1, and then we have in verse 2, God is seeking out the wise. So yeah, the first contrast. The attributes are paralleled pretty nicely. In chapter 15, we are told that the wise are the ones who walk uprightly instead of being corrupt. They do what is right instead of doing evil deeds. They don't harm their neighbors instead of frustrating the plans of the poor. Their identification as being the ones who can come worship in the temple in 15:1 is juxtaposed to the fact that the fools refuse to pray. And considering the parallels, we can determine that the fool language is used as a framing device for the understanding of the wise. Aside from just being literary parallelism, the fools are more generally identifiable as another group, that of course being the wicked. And then I have a ton of stuff written about the wicked and how we already saw in another psalm where they say there is no God. But the thing is, the way that the wicked are portrayed throughout the whole thing is not as a group of people who believe that there is no God, but rather as people who think that he doesn't care, that he's not involved, that he doesn't pay attention, that kind of stuff. So that is the main crux, that these if we read the rest of Psalms, if we read the Psalter, this psalm is not talking about anyone who's an atheist. It's just not. So
It's talking
anyone,
about people who think there will be no consequences to their cruelty and evil and just think they can get away with murder.
yeah, it's very much. I mean, yeah, basically. So it's this is the why I thought it was important to look at both of these psalms, because there is that contrast between those two groups where we get the setup in Psalm 14 1 through 2, where we have the first setup being the fools or the wicked. In fact, they use the same term to refer to what they do, right? The evildoers, po'aleaven. So like it uses that, which is the same one that's used for the wicked in other psalms. Uh, so we have that parallel between them and the righteous, and or the wise, right? So this is just another way of talking about it. So if anyone ever quotes this at you, just remember what I told you. It is not about atheists. It's about people who are practical atheists. So they don't. I think God doesn't give a fuck. So they don't consider God when doing things. And this is actually something that one of the reasons I don't like Sarna, because in the introduction to his book on Psalms, he is like, you know what I don't like? Secular Jews, because they're secular. They should be more Jew. So, yeah, I'm like, damn, shut the fuck up, dude. What a fucking dingus. So that's my major note on these.
Someone in the comments said, Lawrence the Righteous, he walks upright, just like Rory Calhoun.
I
Sorry.
wish I was old enough to know who that was.
It's actually
Do you really though?
Yeah,
No.
it's a joke from The Simpsons. It's all right.
Oh, was it? I don't remember
Yeah.
that.
So,
Okay, so should I start?
yes,
my
please.
commentary? So yeah,
Arn, you have another
I know
comment.
Lawrence said that I'd take care of this one, but
That was like the main stuff.
Oh yes, Elira the Free sent another 50 RN Raw gift memberships.
Lyra.
What? I'm closing in on like 1,000 memberships for the month.
Oh wow.
Or well, actually,
Damn.
no, like 800 of those were last month. So, yeah, very impressive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lyra.
so I did the extensive commentary on Psalms 14.
Okay.
So an overview. Commentators write that the genre of Psalms 14 is mixed, with Telian suggesting, quote, a plea for wisdom, a complaint against sorcerers, a prophetic invective against the godless, or a prayer, a meditation, end quote. Gerstenberger writes that like Psalms 12, 36, 49, 52, etc., this poem belongs to the broader category of early Jewish synagogal speeches. More precisely, it is an instruction of the community concerning the fate of the godless. Craigie writes that, assuming that the psalm is an integrated whole, it would appear that the wisdom theme is dominant, and that the qualities of lament and praise are subsumed within this larger framework. He writes that the origin of Psalms 14 should be sought within the wisdom traditions of ancient Israel, though no precise setting can be determined with respect to the psalm in its initial form. He notes that it is commonly argued that the psalm must be a post-exilic composition, based on the mixed form and on verse 7b, which could be translated when the Lord brings back the captivity of his people, which in turn could be interpreted as a reference either to the diaspora or the exile. He writes, however, that the mixed form need not imply a late date, and may even be indicative of pre-exilic composition. He argues that the Hebrew expression in verse 7b requires a more general translation, and the long history of the psalm implied by the textual variations might indicate considerable antiquity. He thus concludes that a pre-exilic date for the composition of the psalm is likely. Kraus also suggests that Psalms 14 should be set in a cultic situation of the late pre-exilic times, with Hossfeld and Zenger in their commentary on Psalms 53 adding that the close kingship of verse 2 to Hosea 4:1 and 2, Zephaniah 3:7, and of verse 5 to Micah 3:3, Proverbs 30:14 contribute to this assessment. Gerstenberger, however, maintains a post-exilic dating.
Interesting. I mean, there's obviously plenty of times in history when any nation needs to call out people who are being greedy and selfish, but it does remind me of Amos and, after the fall of Israel, but before the fall of Jerusalem, when people are trying to look for a reason why everything was happening. Yeah, blame the wicked.
Okay, on verse 1, fool, in Hebrew, naval. The word is generally translated to fool by early translations. Most traditionals who understood the poem to be a prophecy took naval to be a reference to Nebuchadnezzar, who was, quote, destined to enter the temple and destroy it with not one man of all his armies protesting against him, end quote, according to Rashi. Terrian writes that naval does not necessarily mean fool in the sense of a mentally disturbed individual. He notes that the cognates designate an imprudence or a disgrace, and also a corpse, and includes all those who threaten by their acts or words the harmony of communal living. It may apply to those who leave people physically and spiritually hungry, as we see in Isaiah 32:5 and 6. Gerstenberger writes that fool is used in the sense of preposterous irreverence. He notes that in early Jewish congregations that were found no longer simply and naturally on ethnic or political structures, but on voluntary decision, such definitions of God as outsiders proved necessary. Craigie writes that Naval is not simply one lacking in mental powers and may be a highly intelligent person. Rather, Naval is, quote, one whose life is lived without a direction or acknowledgement of God, end quote. Thus, the opposite of fool and folly is not wise man and wisdom, contra Ibn Ezra, but rather loving kindness, in Hebrew chesed, i.e., the fool is defined by the absence of loving kindness, which is the principal characteristic of the relationship of the covenant.
Kind of hilarious, because I found my life to consist of, I found it much easier to show and feel loving kindness once I no longer believed in God.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of ironic.
Okay, on There Is No God, the Masoretic text reads, En Elohim. The usual understanding of the phrase is that the fool does not acknowledge God's existence, as we see in Septuagint and Vulgate. Gerstenberger writes that the quotation of the godless outsiders' hideous slogan, quote, there is no active or helping God, end quote, is taken as proof of their perversity, that is, their otherness. Human and divine judgment can only be that they are totally wrong and absolutely corrupt, and none of them does the good, quote unquote. Kraus writes that the judgment there is no God does not entail a theoretical atheism, but a practical one. According to Psalms 10, 4, and 11, this phrase means he does not avenge, he has hidden his face, and he does not see. He who denies God does not content his existence, but rather his concrete activity. With the judgment lohu, he combines the contention, no evil will come upon us, as we see in Jeremiah 5:12. The godless person, quote, knows no fear of God, end quote, in Psalms 36:1. The antithesis to there is no God would be to inquire of God, darash et Elohim in verse 2. The fool does not call on God in verse 4. Kraus quotes from El Koller, quote, the assumption that God exists in the Old Testament's greatest gift to mankind. The assumption that God exists is the Old Testament's greatest gift to mankind. In the Old Testament, God's existence is entirely a foregone conclusion, always presupposed. Reference is continually being made to it. It is never denied or questioned. The fool says in his heart, there is no God, and the foolish woman may speak like that in Job 2:10. Or man may deny him and say, this is not he, lohu, in Jeremiah 5:12. But these are the words of people who are lacking in understanding, so lacking that they can be described in the same breath as corrupt and having done abominable works. They speak like that not in order to deny God, but in order to evade his judgment and his claims upon them. They call in question his action as it affects their lives, but they do not call in question his existence.
So,
Sorry, my internet has its
Tomer's
issues.
commentary seems to contradict what Lawrence
so-
had said.
When is this commentary dated from?
Oh god.
Roughly.
Kohler's commentary, I think it's from 57.
Okay.
But like it is. So he says it is practical atheism, as the sinner practices it, not theoretical atheism. So the latter is unknown to the Old Testament, so it doesn't contradict.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't contradict. Yeah, I was like, what? Did it?
No, there was a little bit. I could feel the flavor of a
Yeah.
little bit of that, maybe, but it was definitely far more on the actions, focused
Yeah.
on the actions. But there is still that assumption that there is a connection between the belief in God and the virtuous acts and intents. And I just haven't found that to be the case. I found good people will be good, and they will find a reason why their religion told them they had to be good. And shitty people will be shitty, and they will find a reason why their religion told them they had to be shitty, and it was actually good.
And
And-
saying that not even one of these people, if you wanted to say that it was atheists, we can find lots of atheists who do good things, who run charities and whatnot. So, I mean, that's unjustified.
Mm-hmm. Which is why they're looking at the godless as being those whose actions show them to be, cruel and selfish, as opposed to those who just ideologically don't accept the premise. But yeah, it's the assumption is what I argue with, that it's not inherently, it's sort of unspoken in a lot of believers that, well, obviously, if I do a kind thing, or if I'm good to someone, or I just reach out and help someone will be like, oh, that's such a Christian thing to do, and I'm like, no. No, it is
No,
not.
it's not really.
I am a godless YouTube atheist who blasphemes every week for years. And also, I'm going to help the little old lady across the street. And,
Yeah.
like these things, I there's no contradiction here. But then, of course, I did occasionally help little old ladies when I was a Christian too. So I don't know.
Okay, on 2 and 3, Telian comments, quote, as in a number of other psalms, the expression the sons of Adam evokes the hubris of the human archetype. Compare Psalms 8:5 and 11:4. The heavenly God is the eternal seeker of all his creatures, as seen in Genesis 3:9. Yahweh is not only the covenantal deity who concerns himself with the people of his choice, but is also the passionate observer of all humankind. Self-love, erroneously known as original sin, spoils man's best endeavors. Is there a single maskil who really looks for God? The word designates a prudent man, one who takes time to reflect and to analyze the source of his impulses or the consequence of his good deeds, quote unquote. Psalms 53 is precisely preserved with the title of maskil, a reasoned meditation. The sons of Adam have turned sour. Compare the Arabic alacha and Job 15:16.
Guys, there's a possibility I may have to run out and help with a family thing that I will go into no further detail on. Hopefully I will not, but if I just suddenly go, shit, gotta go, and run, that's what that was.
Okay. Thank you for the heads up. And then we'll expect you to make up lies about what the explanation is later.
Oh yeah, we wouldn't want me to sound too virtuous. I'm sure I can come up with something evil sounding that it was really.
Whenever I see somebody with a cast on, on their leg or their arm, I tell them, I'm sure you get tired of being asked this question, how did that happen? So feel free to make up a lie that's more entertaining than the real story.
Oh, well, not more entertaining, but yeah, I don't know. I'll come up with something.
Okay. Tomer, continue, please.
Yes. On verse 4, Kraus comments, quote, "Upon this radical statement, as it is confirmed through the verdict of the heavenly judge, the desperate question of the psalm singer now arises in verse 4. In place of naval, we now have the more concrete term po'alei aven, which in the Psalms most often designates the enemies of the individual. The psalmer singer complains about the blindness of the evildoers who put their beliefs into practice in Israel. The perfect tense yad'u indicates repeated acts. In other words, a continuous lack of insight. Continuously, the pa'alei aven annihilate, devour, achalu, again in the perfect, my people. In ami, an expression that can only be thought of as is suitable in the mouth of a prophet, we have clear proof that a representative of the people of God is speaking. Compare Psalms 12. The wicked in the picture appear like huge monsters that devour Israel. They devour the members of the people of God, quote, as callously and indifferently as one who eats bread, end quote, according to Gunkel. In any case, verse 4 represents the climax of lament in the form of a desperate question uttered before God. On verses 5 and 6, Craigie notes that the meaning of verses 5 and 6 is difficult to determine. He writes that the psalmist may contrast the passive and active estates of the wicked with those of the righteous. He paraphrases, quote, "The wicked lived in a state of fear as a result of their folly, but the righteous had peace of mind, greater than their oppression, as a consequence of God's presence in their midst. The fool attempted to do ill to the righteous, but found that the righteous benefit from the presence of God as a refuge." End quote. Gerstenberger writes that verses 5 and 6 are directed exclusively against the godless people, not against all mankind, and adds that this disproves, quote, all dogmatic interpretation from Paul to the modern exegetes, end quote. He writes that verse 5 characterizes the godless as the ones who eat my people, a drastic and realistic metaphor for oppression and exploitation of the lower classes, as seen in Micah 3:2 and 3 and Proverbs 30:14. Formally, it is a rhetorical question that at the same time actualizes and objectifies the argument. He writes that verse 6, which he calls badly preserved, presents, quote, a further concretization of the threat to the godless and conversely of the hope of the faithful, end quote.
And finally, on
7, Terrian comments, quote, the language of this conclusion is ambiguous. One may translate, if only the salvation of Israel would come from Zion, or else, who will make it possible that the salvation of Israel will come from Zion? The expression is generally used as a formula of wish, but it may also indicate a simple interrogative. Still another interpretation might be, who gives victories to Israel from Zion? In this case, the name Israel would mean the northern kingdom with its sanctuaries at Shechem or Bethel, long associated with Jacob. A similar ambiguity appears in the second colon, when Yahweh will reverse the fortunes of his people, or when Yahweh will bring back the captivities of his people. The strophic structure of the entire psalm suggests that the last bicolon, with its final hope, or at least wish for the salvation of Israel, in verse 7, belongs to the original composition. However, in view of the ambiguity of meaning in verses 5 and 6, the interpretation of verse 7 may have varied in the course of time, especially before and after the exile in Babylon.
And do you have any Christian commentators on this?
What do you think? I mean, I already said like I'm going to give up on the ancient Christians because they love Psalms so fucking much that
it's just sermons.
Yeah.
It's just sermons. It's not commentary. It's
very
sermons.
long. It's very long, and I really don't want to get into it.
Okay, well, let me just do the stand-in for the Christian commentators regarding verse 1. See, I told you so.
A lot of the Christian commentary, I'm just gonna say, is probably like how it's used in the New Testament. They use it as proof texts a lot. Like, yes, certain Psalms are quoted in the New Testament, and including some of the Psalms that we went over today. But it's not like it's actually going to help us understand the Psalms.
No, it's just I've made the joke many times, I've referenced the joke. I don't know if I've ever actually made it on this channel. There's a joke about a little girl in Sunday school who was so used to the sort of boilerplate answer for anything, that when her teacher was talking about a little story, and she was like, oh, I forget the name of the little animal, fuzzy with the tail and eats nuts, and the girl was like, it sounds like a squirrel, but I think the answer is Jesus. Because she knew. So yeah,
Right,
it's
So we
that's
also
all Christian commentary. Sounds like a squirrel, but I think the answer is Jesus. That's the Psalms. Done.
Danger Man 1973 apparently offers $2 and says, what's your opinion on Mark 7 verses 6 through 10? We'll wait till next month when we get to the New Testament.
Yeah, definitely happening in the next month. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I haven't written my commentary on Mark yet, but yeah, that's the part where Jesus isn't following like the traditions of the rabbis. So they when it comes to eating food, so they come up to him and they're like, "Hey, why are you not doing that?" And then he quotes Isaiah at them, uh, saying that essentially just saying that they have taken human doctrine over God's. Um, and I know that what's his name, Robert
If
Banks.
God didn't want them
He
to be
has
anal about their eating habits, he shouldn't have given them the laws he did.
right, he did. But the thing is, because I mean, when it comes to the Gospels overall, Jesus is presented as trying to get back to like the original form of the faith, and his points are like, well, it's only because you scribes, you Pharisees, you guys have defiled his law and like turned it into something that it shouldn't be.
Isn't Jesus also a Pharisee? He didn't deny the oral law, right?
He might have been in a scene.
Well,
Was it
He
just
definitely wasn't a Sadducee.
no,
I think it seems to be more that when the Gospels were written, the remaining Jewish sect that was still alive, because they were more moderate and still opposing Christianity, was the Pharisees, and thus they were
right,
cast
right?
as the evil opposition, even though
Ye-
many of the better teachings that are attributed to Jesus are actually taken from the writings of Pharisees, such
Right,
as, you know, yeah, even on the Sabbath, you could reach into the well and get a sheep out. You're not going to leave them to die. Like,
right,
common
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, a lot of Jesus stuff is like putting like the good of like people over like like God would want you to help like another person or something
Yeah,
in
be
distress.
flexible enough not to be
right. I'm saying
cruel.
is this
Yeah.
something that he possibly actually did, or is this a later writer who was already
Well, we're talking about the portrayal in the Gospels.
right? Does it change over time? In the earlier Gospels,
I
Yes.
he's
mean,
more
a little bit,
aligned.
yeah, depending on what it
Okay.
is.
But you have to remember that the Gospels were written later. The earliest Christian writings are the epistles, and the epistles don't have such a focus on the Pharisees. The Gospels were written later to edify existing Christians, and how much of them is biographical or theological is an entirely separate
Okay.
debate we will have at that time. But yeah,
Right.
it's
No,
Well,
because
well,
a lot of Christians use that section, I think, about to deny like that any of the ceremonial laws in like Leviticus apply to them,
well,
well,
of
they
course, they still
used
want to wear mixed fabrics and eat shrimp.
yeah, no,
rather
they
than
they
an
use
anti-Pharisaic like additional law.
listen, this is there's a lot of
Mhm.
like later theology that goes into this about how uh Jesus came to fulfill the law, not not get rid of it. So like the idea is that he's going to be the one uh to perfectly uh complete it. And the we have to take into account like Hebrews 2 or like I should say Hebrews as well, not Hebrews chapter 2.
But do
Yeah,
we?
what?
Do we?
Well, we have to once we get there.
Yeah, no, I'm joking.
But the this is a much larger theological question when it comes to that. So we'll get there.
There's a
But-
teaser for you
But I
for
think
season 2.
season 2, yeah.
Speaking about Jesus, since I already gave it away, Arn, can you read out the last message?
Illyra the Free sent 50 RN Raw gift memberships.
Wow.
Woo!
Incredible. Love the balloons.
Thank
You're done talking about Jesus.
Well, never. But yeah, I think we should go. We should.
Why
do
are we
the
talking about
commentary on Psalm
non-biblical
50.
texts?
I think it's very
Yes.
biblical.
So
Well, I
course
think
you
it's
do.
relevant because Christians use it to deny
Traitor.
the Old Testament.
Okay, so Craigie writes that neither the date nor the author of Psalms 15 can be specified with certainty, though the reference to the holy mountain in verse 1 may indicate almost any period from the establishment of the sanctuary in Zion. He writes that if Isaiah 33, 14, and 15 may be understood as an adaptation of Psalms 15, then this psalm was composed before Isaiah's time. But he writes that such a conclusion must remain uncertain. Kraus writes that Psalms 15 belongs to the traditions of the Jerusalem temple, and its composition and use in the pre-exilic cultus can hardly be doubted. Terrier notes that some critics suggested that the poem is a decalogue, while others have pointed out that the answers to the initial double question are strictly ethical, and ignore any command of a cultic or theological character. Gerstenberger notes that scholars classified the psalm as either entrance liturgy, according to Gunkel and Beglich, or prophetic exhortation, or, quote, little catechism of religious morals, according to Garcia. He writes, however, that a merely literary origin is unlikely, given the processes that apparently underlie the genesis of the Psalms. On the other hand, Psalms 15 cannot be by any means represent a genuine entrance dialogue between pilgrims and priests of any Israelite temple. He further writes, quote, we are left with the hypothesis that the question-answer form of this poem, with its intent of gaining admission to the sanctuary, indeed is an old pattern of entrance liturgy, probably exercised in Israel before opening worship ceremonies. Compare 2 Chronicles 23:19, Deuteronomy 23:2-9, Psalms 118, 19-21. The old texts for this kind of liturgy certainly required, above all, ritual cleanness, as seen in Exodus 34, 18-26, and Leviticus 11-15. The liturgical texts changed, however, as Israel changed its social and ecclesiastical structure. Over the centuries, the old rituals were adapted to new situations, and the old texts were reread and reinterpreted. Becker aptly discusses the basic implications of this process, pointing back to A. Gellin and other French exegetes. While not agreeing with all the principles of reinterpretation that Becker discovers in the Psalms, I recognize the importance of the adaptation processes in Israel. In Psalm 15, verses 4 CD suggests a radically changed community situation, and the altogether ethical instead of sacrificial outlook of Psalms 15 underlines the assumption that the present text reflects non-sacrificial, ethical, quote-unquote, worship of the early Jewish community. That's it.
Okay. Are we then moving on?
I don't think we should. I still have to write the commentary for
Okay.
for this stuff.
All
We
right.
are still meeting Saturday, though, aren't
okay.
we?
Yeah, next important question.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that.
I think I can do that, but
Let me
need
know
to
if
write
you
the
can't,
commentary,
because this
so
weekend
I'll
is
do
the North
it.
American
Okay.
Reptile Breeders Conference.
Do it. If I mean,
What
if you want, if you want the to attend, then I don't really mind.
I want to prioritize, appropriately. So if we're all good for it, then I'll be good for it. Otherwise, I'm
That-
gone.
I mean, I think I'll be good for it, though I need to prepare firsthand.
Okay.
Of course.
So we were talking about Psalm 16, picking up from there.
Yeah,
Sounds like the plan.
Okay.
and
Yes,
I will inform Kip that. I mean, I will definitely be getting to Psalm
I'll
22.
I'll ask
So I think we're good to go for Saturday then as well, right?
Yep.
Sounds like
Alright.
a
And with
plan.
nothing
Perfect.
more to say,
Yeah,
You
sure.
shushard. Absolutely. Join the Discord. It's the only Discord you'll ever need. It's the best Discord. There's no better Discord than this. It's the best. There's really nothing like it. Yeah. So join the Discord.
Did you forget the most
Mhm.
important word when you started that comment?
yeah.
Believe me. So,
Wasn't
Well,
it,
I
wasn't
was
it
looking for
supposed to
something
be
Dean said.
behold or something?
oh yeah. Behold.
Behold!
I suppose we did the Behold Network.
Yes, the Behold.
All right, then. Good night.
Hasta
night,
la bye
Gracie.
bye.